guys, and welcome to Press A Repeatedly. Justin Tomasello here with Chris Gold. And Chris, are you freezing your butt off yet?
I've lost all feeling in my legs. It started at my feet, and then my calves, and then my thighs. So it's very slowly but surely working its way up my body. I estimate I've got maybe about 2 or 3 days left to live. But you know what? I was able to make it in time to record this episode, so I'm counting my blessings.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
You all are very welcome that we're recording right now, because I came home, ate some dinner, took a very long, very hot shower, and Chris and I we had a plan to meet online at 7:00 and start setting up, and it was 6:42, and I was like, all right, I got like 10 minutes to kind of just lie on my bed, and oh my god, like, it is a miracle that I got up and got in front of the computer because I was in like that perfect state of comfort.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
Like, the clock says 6:42, and then like I blinked and it said 6:59, and I was like, ugh.
Oh god, man, I've been there. When I was working overnights, there were times where literally I would have shifts that started at like 10 o'clock, or God forbid, I had shifts that started at 11 sometimes.
Oh, man.
And I would literally be like around 10:40 or so, you hit that phase where your body is just like it's just shutting down, and it's like, all right, it's time to sleep. And I'm like 90% asleep, and I'm like, no, I gotta go in. And it's like, oh, yeah. It's just the worst because it just hits like all of a sudden.
Yeah, it definitely sneaks up on you. And,
yeah. But yeah, this cold sucks. I'm actually surprised that you were as cold as you were, that you needed to take a hot shower to warm up, because ordinarily you love the cold.
I do love the cold, and I am like never really cold. But today I was actually cold. As weird of a statement as that sounds. Like my legs were like really cold, and to the point where they were almost hurting, and I was like, oh, this must be what like normal humans feel during this time of year.
Your legs are cold. Mine are literally frozen.
And yesterday we had like that brief snow squall. Did you get that text message about that?
I got something about a squall. I got a weather alert.
The weather alert. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It was funny. At work we have this. We use this chat program to kind of talk to everybody in our team, and somebody posted a picture of the snow squall message on the chat, and then I responded with, "This is the only squall I know," and I put a picture of Squall from Final Fantasy VIII in the chat, and then it just started this like super long chat of like everybody debating which Final Fantasy games they've played and like which is the best.
You know what? That's a good use of work resources.
Oh yeah.
You know what? It's a good debate. It's a debate we're not having today, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the snow squall came briefly, and it was like a wall of snow for like, I don't know, 20 minutes, and then we had some frost on the windshield when I got to the car to go home, and it was like really like stuck on there, and I couldn't get all of it off, and my wipers were kind of smearing it around, and I tried to use, of course, the fluid to clean the window, and of course it was frozen solid and nothing came out. So,
that's the worst, when it like freezes to the windshield and it just makes it worse.
Yeah. So I came home today, and because my windshield it's like all foggy and like white streaks everywhere, and it's hard to see out of. So I went inside and I got we have like that electric pot of water for tea that you like plug in and like it'll boil the water. Mm-hmm. And I brought it outside, and my plan was to pour the hot water on the windshield, wipe it off with one paper towel to get like the water off, and then wipe it off with another paper towel to get like the excess moisture. And so I was like, all right, here we go. So I poured the water, I wiped the first one, and from the time of me switching from one paper towel to the other, the water on the windshield froze already. It was just like, it's just like a sheet of ice on top of my windshield now. So now I have to deal with that.
That sounds like a tomorrow problem.
Exactly, yeah. Then I came in and took a shower.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is your cousin Kevin, does he live out in the Chicago area?
He was living in Chicago, but he recently moved to Boston, I think 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. That's right. You guys went up for the wedding a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because we're complaining about the cold, but right now, middle of the country, I mean, they're dealing with temperatures that are colder than Siberia, North Pole, Antarctica, all the places that are like, cold as shit. Yeah, Chicago was colder than even that.
Yeah, that's just insane. Some of those headlines, to even read them, are just wild.
Yeah, just hope everybody stays safe out there. That's yeah, that kind of cold is dangerous. I know you like the cold, but that is a legit dangerous, do not mess with it kind of cold.
Like you open the door and step outside and just explode into a million pieces.
You ever see the movie Day After Tomorrow? Where like a guy literally like lands his helicopter, he opens the door and he just instantly like freezes into a block of ice. That's Chicago right now.
Yep. There you go.
So Justin, we run a video game podcast.
We sure do.
What exactly are we bringing to the fine folks of the world this week?
Well, if you're a loyal listener, you will be happy to hear that we are bringing back one of the favorite segments of the show, Video Game True or False.
True or false?
Yeah, normally we have a guest on to do this, but for this episode it's just me and Chris, so we're going to alter it a bit.
We've had to cut costs a lot, so we couldn't have any guests on for this particular instance. I suggested pretending to be a guest in addition to myself, but Justin nixed that idea as how did you put that? Stupid. You said that was
that's right.
Yeah, you said that was a stupid idea.
That's correct.
Yeah,
you remember correctly. Yeah, so what we're going to do instead is we each have 3 statements that we're going to kind of rattle off to each other. We're going to take turns and, give our opinions that way. So it'll still be pretty fun.
Right. It'll be more of a back and forth affair than it was previously, because usually we would have one of us compile the true or false statements and then read them to the other host as well as the guest, and then we would all just kind of talk about whether it was true or false, etc. But now it's more a back and forth type of thing. So that's what we're going to be going with.
Yep. And that'll be a little bit later on. But for now, let's get right into it. Chris.
Mm-hmm.
What do you play? What do you play?
Justin, I'm very glad you asked. I decided that this week I was going to take things a little bit retro. Not too retro, but just slightly retro.
Ah.
And I decided to dip into a bit of my backlog and see some older games that I'd gotten, but I never got around to actually playing. And this time I actually went onto my PS4 library, and I realized that I had a game that I'd picked up a while ago. I don't even remember when I bought it, but it's a game I've always wanted to play. But before, I could never buy it or play it because it was always very rare to find. It was super rare before the era of digital distribution. So,
and it's on Steam?
I believe it is on Steam, but it is on PS4, which is where I played it.
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yes.
Continue.
That's fine. So, it's on PS4, and it's a game I've always wanted to play, and Justin, that game is Psychonauts.
Oh, wow. And that's appropriate because Psychonauts 2 is on the way.
Yes, I was actually reading it very shortly after we recorded our top 5 most anticipated games episode last time. I was kind of doing a little more research, and I discovered, oh hey, Psychonauts 2 is coming out this year. And I was like, that could be 6. That could be number 6. But I never played the first one before, and I'd heard nothing but great things about it. So I was like, let me try it out. And let me tell you, this is a really fun and funny game, but it's definitely a game that is showing its age as time has gone on. So,
Right.
the basics idea of the game, it's developed by Tim Schafer. It was, I think it was the first game? It was one of the first games that his new studio, Double Fine Studios, had created after he had left LucasArts after he helped develop some of the best and greatest adventure games of all time, including like Grim Fandango, The Secret of Monkey Island, all those games with like a really weird, fun, and funny sense of humor, very colorful characters. He decided to sow his oats elsewhere. And so he started Double Fine, and he created Psychonauts with a lot of other developers who followed him from LucasArts. And a lot of that same humor, the same unique character design, both in terms of how they look and how they act and how they talk, you can definitely tell a lot of that has carried over from the older games that he had worked on to Psychonauts. The game takes place, it's a world where psychoanalysis or psychotherapy exists, like telepathy, where you can read people's minds and that sort of fun stuff. It takes place at kind of a summer camp. It's ostensibly called a summer camp, but in reality, it's actually a government training facility where the government recruits psychonauts to to work for their psychonautic division. And the Psychonauts are basically exactly what they are. They're like secret agents who invade people's minds to sort of determine, like, hey, they've got like some nefarious plan going on. Maybe they have something tragic in their backstory that is making them do these terrible things. If we resolve that conflict, then it will put that person at ease and they won't be an asshole anymore. So
that's one way to look at it.
It's a way to look at it. But it's just a clever idea, first off. I mean, that's just such a unique concept that you never really hear about in games like before or since. It's just very creative, and I love that sort of outside the box thinking. And the game starts off, the game came out originally during the GameCube, PS2, Xbox era, so the graphics are certainly dated a little bit, but it's still a very good looking game. Like, it genuinely feels like you're playing a CGI cartoon, almost. You know how a lot of the CGI cartoons from that era kind of had a little bit of a weird, clunky look to them?
Yeah, like a reboot.
Exactly, like Reboot, or a personal favorite of mine from those days was Beast Wars.
Beast Wars,
yeah. Love that show. But, yeah, that sort of look. That's kind of what Psychonauts reminds me of. And all the characters, like, they're just so fun and funny, because it's a bunch of children who thought they were going to summer camp, but they realize as soon as they get there, there's like a drill sergeant guy who's like, all right, runts, we're gonna whip you into shape and we're gonna make psychonauts out of you. And one of the kids is like, isn't this a summer camp? It's like, that's what you thought. And like, some of the kids are like genuinely upset. Like, some of the kids are just like, all right, I'm out. I'm calling my mom. Yeah. So like, they just don't want to deal with it. But our main hero is his name is Raz. He's like kind of tall and gangly, but he's got like a really wide, oval-shaped head, yellow skin. He looks kind of gross, if we're being perfectly honest. But
Yeah, the character design of the Psychonauts series is incredibly unique, and I think it really makes the game stand out. And to see that coming back in Psychonauts 2 is really cool. Like, if you watch some of the trailers for Psychonauts 2, like, everybody looks, like, super weird and vastly different, but it's all in that, like, kooky, like, style, so it looks awesome.
yeah, and it's funny too because the voice acting in this game is super, super good. Like, all the line readings are really believable. Everyone gets into character really well, and it was bothering me who was playing Raz, because it was one of those things where he was talking and he was emoting like everyone else is like, those drill sergeants like, we're gonna make you Psychonauts, and everyone's like, I don't know about this. Raz is like, yeah, we're gonna be Psychonauts. He's like totally into it. Like, he is 100% committed to this. Like, this is his thing. Like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And his voice, I was like, who is that? Like, it was bothering me because that's one thing I've always sort of prided myself on when watching cartoons, and if I hear a familiar voice, I can always peg, like, oh, who's the voice actor? I'm like, oh, I recognize that voice. I recognize that voice. Yeah, I enjoy voice acting. It's a very unique skill.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And the guy who played Raz, I had to look him up because it was bothering me. His name is Richard Horvitz. Now, that name by itself might not be important to you, but let me tell you some of the roles he's played, and you'll kind of recognize his voice patterns. All right, he was Alpha 5 from Power Rangers. He was Daggett from the Angry Beavers. He was Invader Zim.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And most importantly, and most iconically, all right, he was Pinky the Appendix from that one episode of Rocko's Modern Life.
Oh man.
Yeah,
what a role.
Yeah.
Role of a lifetime.
Yeah, I was literally go through his voice cast, and literally I was like, oh, he was Zim. Oh, he was Daggett. He was Pinky? I don't know why that excited me so much, but I was like, oh shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, the actual gameplay is, I mean, it's a standard like 3D action adventure game where you roam around sort of a sandboxy world, and there's collectibles to collect. There's different secret areas to uncover. Like, if you explore this one area, you'll go down a tunnel which has little branching paths, and there's more collectibles to find here. Raz, he has a double jump, but in universe it's actually pretty clever because he jumps and then he kind of uses his mind to give himself like a little second boost as he's jumping. So he also has melee moves, which again use his mind a lot. So like there's kind of a combo to it. Like, he'll punch, and then he'll throw like a powerful punch where it's like a giant fist. But that clearly is also a product of his mind coming out there.
That's awesome.
Let me see. The main gist of the game, too, is you go around the camp, and you have to inhabit certain people's minds. Like, as the game progresses, there's nefarious things going on, and you have to invade people's minds to get to the bottom of what's going on. And that is where the level design really shines through, because you go into people's minds and it is just off the wall bonkers, the way that the world is portrayed in these brains. Like, the very first one you go into is called the braining course. It's like basic braining, I think. And the drill sergeant is like, all right, Runts, if you want to get out there, you gotta go through my head. And so, like, you go into the drill sergeant's head, and it's almost like it's very warlike and there's like landmines, and there's like planes that are kind of like flying around all over the place. There's bombs exploding. It's very much a war setting, but the world is just designed in like a goofy, almost Tim Burton-esque type way, where nothing is very like geometrical. It's all like oddly shaped and weird, and it was really fun. Like, it was a lot of fun exploring. The controls were just a little bit spotty, and this is where the game was showing its age, because there are areas where you have to jump to like little tiny platforms to get across a certain area of the level, but the way the camera is set up and the way the controls are just a little bit floaty, it kind of makes it hard to nail those jumps, and then you'll fall, and then you have to go all the way to the beginning, climb up a ladder, and try to jump across all over again. So
Yeah.
there are some areas where the game has definitely shown its age a lot, but it's still a really fun game. I'm having a blast with it. It really is the game that I thought it was gonna be. It's that perfect, like, it's got that Wind Waker-esque quality where it feels like you're actually playing a cartoon. And I love that feeling so much. Like, that was such a golden age for games in general, like that time frame. But then again, that's probably me with nostalgia goggles, because that was back when we were in like high school and all that.
No, I think it really is. I mean, that game is so critically rated for so many different reasons, and I think just that, like, how unique it is, how clever of an idea it is to go in people's heads, and then once you're inside there, like, you can do basically anything you want to create the world to match that person's personality, and then like bring that to life. I mean, just such a cool trip for gamers to go through and play that game. It's definitely on my list of a game I've always wanted to check out but never gotten around to. Totally cool that you're playing it, and I hope to do that one day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When the game first came out, I don't know what happened, but the game did not sell well at all.
Right.
It like legendarily became a cult classic, which is why it was so hard for me to play the game initially, because I couldn't find any copies of it anywhere. No one was selling it, and I was like, but I'm playing it now, so wrongs are being righted, and hopefully the sequel will sell well in a few months or so.
Yeah, and it came out right around at the same time as Beyond Good and Evil, I believe.
I think so,
Which
yeah.
is like the same story. Super unique game. It's really creative, like ahead of its time. Did not sell well at all. Hard to find. Like, it's really interesting how both those two games kind of came out right around the same period.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, so moving on from Psychonauts, a certain huge game came out last week that seemingly everybody was talking about, and it wasn't very high on my radar, because like I enjoy the Resident Evil series enough, but it's never been anything where I'm like, oh yeah, like I gotta pick up the new one, I gotta play it, have a scary good time. I guess Capcom recently redid the Resident Evil engine, and they've been releasing the newer games. Like, what was it, a couple years ago or last year? They had Resident Evil 7,
Yep.
and now they went ahead and they remade Resident Evil 2, which just came out. The remake just came out last week, and everybody was raving about this game. People were losing their minds over how good the game was, how scary it was, how it maintained all of the good parts of the original while updating the parts that were not so good or became really dated. And I was like, oh man, like, this sounds great. I should get this game. But Justin, I am poor. And unfortunately, video games cost, as you know, money. And
Yeah, despite our best efforts, they continue to cost money.
they continue to cost money, despite all logic and reason. But I was looking and I saw that the game did offer a free demo of Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation Store. So the other day I went and I downloaded and I played the Resident Evil 2 demo. And let me see, it was a one-shot 30-minute demo. So you only get to play it once. You get 30 minutes, and then after that, they're like, "Hey, if you like that, you should buy the game." And I'm like, "All right, don't push your luck." Yeah, yeah. Let's see how this goes. So, at first, it starts off with Leon Kennedy. I mean, this was Resident Evil 2 was the game that first introduced Leon, and he's reporting to his very first day of work at the Raccoon City Police Department. And he goes in and there's just a zombie infestation going on. And he's like, "All right, let's deal with this." And that's how it starts off. So he goes inside and now you're in the lobby of the friggin' Raccoon City Police headquarters, which, my God, the lobby of this thing, the taxpayers of Raccoon City, if they knew how opulent and just extremely beautiful the inside of the police station was, there would be riots in the streets. They're like, this is where our tax money is going. There's statues and beautiful
to the police station hot tubs.
The gold is chipping a little bit. We need to buy a whole new bathroom. No, so you go in and at first, I don't know. I looked. I just went in and I looked to my right, and immediately there was a door, a steel door that was cracked open just a little bit at the bottom, and there was a red button next to it, and I was just like, "Well, I mean, what else are you gonna do?" So I go and I press the button, which raised it up a little bit, but then Leon had to crawl under. And there was a little puddle of water under there, so he's crawling through. He's like, "Oh, God, jeez." Ugh. And he gets out, and it's a hallway, and it is pitch black. And so he pulls out his flashlight, and he's just holding it up, looking. And it's scenario where the flashlight is the only source of light. And I'm playing, and I'm like, great, fantastic, wonderful. This is exactly what I fucking needed right now. Not 2 minutes into this thing, and it's all right.
Just throw you right in.
Just throwing me right in. Here you go, spooky, scary, spooky, scary. I'm like, God damn it. But here's the thing, all right? So I make my way cautiously down the hallway because, as has been established before on this show, I am a coward. So I'm very cautiously making my way down the hallway, and I come to a locker that's tilted on its side, and I was like, okay, and I'm kind of walking around. There's no button prompts or anything to deal with this, so okay. There was a door right next to me, right next to that area. So I go in, and there's a body lying half-eaten on the floor, right in the middle. I'm I put my gun right at this thing. I'm like, you get up. I'm watching you. I know how this series works, man. You get up. I'm shooting your head off.
Oh yeah.
There's a light switch. I quickly turn on the light because again, I'm a coward. And I'm not fighting in the dark. And I shoot the body a couple times in the head just to be sure, but it's not getting up. And I'm okay, I walk over. I literally walk over the body a few times just to try to get it to get up or do something. And I'm
activate.
Yeah, activate, zombie, activate. Maybe it's a clapper, But no, nothing happening with this guy. So I'm like, okay, I guess. And I'm looking the door's boarded up. There's blood smeared all over the place, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, there's nothing else to do here. I guess I'll just leave. Sorry about shooting you in the head, whoever you were. So I leave, and I was like, again, there's no button prompts near that tilted over cabinet. So I'm like, okay. So I went back and forth down the hallway a couple times, and nothing was happening. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's nothing, like, nothing was happening. I'm like, I only have 30 minutes to play this, like, what's going on here? And weirdly enough, then I went back to the cabinet, and then there was a button prompt to, like, hold this button to move the cabinet. And I was like, okay, thank you, that's something. Move the cabinet, and I go through, and that's when the zombies started attacking me very shortly thereafter. Yeah, some guy, like a cop, was like banging on the door. He's like, oh, help me, help me, help me. I'm like, okay. And I open the door, and this guy's like, he's crawling on his hands and legs trying to get underneath this door. And I'm like, all right, buddy, we both know how this is going to go. He's like, quick, pull me out, pull me out. And I'm like pulling him, like, like pull him out. So his waist, I can only see his waist. And I'm like, 3, 2, 1. There's an explosion of blood from underneath the door. This guy's like, and I'm like, and he's like, oh god, I'm like, right. And then he's like, and then I pull him out, and I mean, this guy's just it cut in half, and his intestines are like pouring out of him. I mean, there's blood all over the place, and he's like, I'm like, oh shit, are you okay? But Justin, he was not okay.
He was not okay.
He was not okay at all. It turns out that's fatal when that sort of thing happens to you.
When you lose your bottom half.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, all right. So Leon's like, he's like, I gotta get out of here. So he like retreats, and I open the door. I came back in, and there's a zombie, and he just like grabs me. I'm like, oh shit. And I like try shooting him a couple times, but I'm shooting him in the head, and it's barely doing anything. Then he like starts gnawing on my neck. I'm like, oh shit. I like throw him off, and I run past him back down the hallway. More zombies just pop out of nowhere. They all start like biting me on the neck. I'm like, stop that. And finally, and Leon, he's running, and I mean, every time they bite me, like, I have a little health meter that shows like it starts out green and it gets yellow, then like darker yellow, and then red for when you're just dead. And it like progresses down to like the second lowest part, where right before I die, and Leon is just struggling. He's like, I'm like, walk it off, champ. It's okay. You're gonna be fine. Eventually, like, I make my way back to the main lobby area, where I meet the lieutenant, who is like, like, these things just came out of nowhere. We gotta make our way. We gotta find fellow officers. And listen, though, you find any one of them who are wearing a uniform, you don't hesitate, son. You take them out. And I'm like, okay. and
and congratulations on joining the Raccoon City Police Force.
Yeah, we were gonna have a party for you. And that's the thing, like, it was right around that point where he's just like, you don't get fooled by that badge. You see one of them things, you take them out. Where I was thinking to myself, man, Leon is a trooper. Like, he is like, here's a guy, like, it is his first day of work. If it was my first day of work, anywhere at all, I don't care what it is that I am doing, and there is a zombie infestation,
and you pull out a coworker who's ripped in half.
Yeah, and one of my coworkers, I didn't even get a chance to meet him or say hi. No, suddenly the only thing I know about him is he's in half. I mean, I would have just been like, you know what? I don't need this. I really don't need this right now. The economy is not so bad that I have to take this job. So, but Leon stuck through it. He's like, this is my job. I have a duty to uphold. I'm going to do it. So I'm like, all right.
He's a better man than you or me, that's for sure.
Absolutely, he is. So, at that point, the guy who got torn in half, he had like a notebook in his hand, and he was like, take it. Like, his last words were literally like, take this. And I'm like, all right. So I took the notebook, and there was like a little diagram of like the statue that was in the middle of the Raccoon City Police Department, there's like there's like gems and stuff that you can find to unlock it, and it leads to an underground tunnel which leads to outside the police station, which is, you know, how you can escape from the police station, which I thought was weird because
who built that and why?
Amazing questions. Those are amazing questions that were never answered during the course of my playthrough. But a third question that I want to ask is, I mean, I look back over my shoulder at the front door and I was like, I came in that way. I mean, it was fine. I didn't run into any trouble going that way. I don't know, whatever, you know. This guy literally died. He got cut in half, eaten in half to give me this notebook. I was not going to let his death be in vain. So it's like, all right, you know, I'll humor you, Carl. So it leads into like standard Resident Evil thing where you have to like go into this new area and there's puzzles to deal with. You know, you have to solve these different puzzles that will reveal the different keys, and like this piece leads to that piece, and there's like all these winding hallways they have to go through. And in the meantime, there's all these dead like bodies of police officers all over the place. There's some that are just shuffling around like, and I'm like, oh, like, no, just no, leave me alone. And like I go into like different rooms to to solve those puzzles, and the zombies from like one room will follow me into the next room. It's like, you know, classic Resident Evil stuff. Yeah, so I'm like, ah, crap. I'm like trying to shoot them, but they're not leaving me alone. And the carryover from like Resident Evil 4 is I was like, oh, I can shoot them in the legs and knock them down. But I shoot them in the legs and knock them down, and then they'll just keep crawling after me like, and I'm like, you stop. And I'm like trying to shoot them, but they take so many bullets. Like, these zombies are just bullet sponges. And I'm like, I don't have that much ammo. You know, I can't just do that to you guys. Like, I gotta conserve. So that's like the gameplay where it comes through. You know, do I avoid the zombies? Do I gun them down? So I was definitely really feeling it as I was going through. And eventually I got to this one room where it was pitch black. So I had my flashlight out, and I see one zombie. He's just kind of like slumped over at his desk. And I'm like, okay. I like walk past him, and I hear from behind me, and I'm like, of course he was a zombie. So I turn around, I shoot his legs out. So at least he's crawling, but he's slower and I can avoid him. So I go around to the other side, and then boom, a zombie like attacks me from behind. I'm like, oh shit. I turn around to shoot him, and he's literally like just about to bite my neck. He's like, and I've got my gun right in his face. And right then the demo ends, and it's like, did you enjoy that? I was like, I kind of did. Like, if we're being 100% honest, I kind of did. Like, that was pretty cool. Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, the actual game, I'm sure, is like a little more realized, and there's there's more meat to that than what the demo was offering. But it was really cool. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know what happened in the beginning there where, for whatever reason, that cabinet wouldn't let me go through. But the game looks great. The demo looks great. It's appropriately scary. It's creepy. It's got a good atmosphere to it. If I had the money, I would pick up Resident Evil 2. It's a good game.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't seen anything about it, like of how it works or how it looks. I've only just heard, great things. Now this is definitely a game that is going to count, like in our at year-end Game of the Year talks, because while it is a remake, it's a full remaster.
Yeah,
it is completely new.
Yeah, this is 100% it's the same style of game, but they've completely redone like the gameplay, the the graphics, the story is essentially the same, but everything has been completely brought up to modern day. So yes, Resident Evil 2 will qualify for our end of the year awards.
Yeah, and it's third person, right? Like it's not gonna be. It's not like the weird angled like tank control kind of thing like the classic Resident
Yeah,
Evil.
it's the same control scheme and the same camera angle as Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to watch somebody play that. I don't want to play it, but I really want to watch somebody play that because that's how I watch all the Resident Evil games. Is like just comfortably sitting on the couch as someone else has to deal with all the horror.
Hey, I mean, did you ever beat Resident Evil 4?
No, I never even played it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've beaten Resident Evil 4. That was a fun game.
that's awesome.
That one's more action adventure. Like that's when the games started kind of becoming more action games versus horror games.
Yeah.
But they've definitely returned back to that horror element. And while we're talking Resident Evil, special shout out to friend of the show Bill for that time back in high school where he was playing Resident Evil 4, and it was during this one part where the elevator was going up, and he was working the controls, and he heard behind him Ashley scream, "Help me, Leon!" So he pulled out his sniper rifle, quick turnaround, one bullet in his chamber, and just boom, took out the zombie. Didn't even look. Like, it was literally like, he just like, boom, took out the zombie, and just went right back to what he was doing.
It was the most amazing shot I've ever seen in any video game in my 31 years of video game experience.
Likewise, it still is
Yeah.
the most impressive shot I've ever seen. So yeah, special shout out to Bill.
Yeah.
All right, so so that's me. That's all I've been playing. Justin, what have you been playing?
Awesome. Yeah. So I have been playing a lot because I've been tweeting about it. I don't know if I talked about it last time on the pod, but there are a lot of really interesting indie games on the Switch right now. I mean, ever since the Switch came out, they've just been launching a bunch of indie games.
Right.
But for me personally, the past couple of weeks, I feel like a lot of really interesting stuff has been coming out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get some of this stuff. I'm going to play it. I'm going to talk about it on the pod. And, I still have a huge list of stuff that I want to get that I haven't gotten around to yet. But yeah, I grabbed a couple things this past week. One that I absolutely loved and one that absolutely was lame and boring. And I guess I'll get the boring one out of the way first.
Yes, please.
There was this game called Forever Forest on the Switch eShop, and I didn't do any like review reading or anything like that. I was only going by like the thumbnails that I've seen. I think I saw somebody on Twitter posting about it too, and the presentation looked really cool. It's a kind of an isometric view of like this creature exploring in the forest. It's got like this mystic kind of feel to it. You're playing as like this little orange monster thing that's wearing this like mask made out of bone or something.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of had like this mystic like spiritual feel to it just from like the presentation of the game, and it kind of reminded me of the art style of Hob, and I guess I was thinking it was going to play like Hob too. But right after I bought it and started playing it, I immediately felt like duped. Like, oh, I just wasted some money because
That's the worst.
like I haven't confirmed this, but I think the game was made for like mobile initially because the interface and stuff kind of looks like how it would look if you were playing a game on an iPad or an iPhone or something. Like, there's buttons on the lower left corner of the screen. Like when you bring up the menus, like all of the options are really large and like it just looks like maybe you would use a finger kind of to swipe through some of this stuff. The controls are super basic, and the gameplay it's really just you have two things: you move and you do this dash move where you just kind of like slide across the screen and smack into enemies. The menus are like really sloppy and almost not to sound like a video game snob over here, but they kind of feel like amateur looking. And that's always a huge like turn off for me on games. Like when I see like that's like a not well thought out or poor designed menu or interface, it just kind of like takes me out of the game immediately.
Well, yeah,
I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna like this game.
yeah,
And that's pretty much what
yeah.
happened.
A lot of that stuff is part of the polish. Like that's what makes the game like look and feel like like a lot of care went into it. I mean, trust me, I've played a lot of indie games that have not had a lot of polish to them, and that wears on you. It shows. Like it's just clunky. It doesn't look good. Like you want the game to present well while you're playing it, as in addition to being a fun game. So yeah, that sort of thing is always really disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a bummer. And you look at that and you see like a poorly designed menu or one that probably didn't take that much time to develop or lay out, and then you kind of think, oh, maybe they kind of had that same attitude in the game. Like maybe the game layout or the controls or just overall gameplay aren't that well thought out either. And definitely feels that way with Forever Forest. And you know me, Chris. Like I like to, I'm a glasses half full type of gamer.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
you always look on the bright side.
yeah, I've played a bunch of shit for the indie arcade, and I'm like, yeah, this sucks, but this part was cool, or like I can see that this is alright, or at least they were trying to make a good game.
Right. I just want to say for the record, I try to see the bright side of games too, but sometimes there just aren't any.
No, of course, sometimes there aren't, and I feel like this is the case for Forever Forest. It was just a very bland, boring game. Like I didn't even really explain it, but like you're just kind of in the woods, and you move around, and you have to kill these enemies, and some of the enemies that you kill are these animals that are wearing these like bone masks like you, and you have to kill them and collect their masks, and then the masks become like a currency that you use to buy new moves that like supposed to upgrade your character. But the new moves that you get are just like, oh, your dash move goes a little bit farther, or like you move a little bit faster now. Like I guess there's nothing really of value.
So, nothing really interesting, like different moves or stuff like that. Yeah, that's weak.
And like there's no story or anything. There's just like different areas on the map for you to go to, and you just gotta try and run around and like get enough like soul meter or collect enough of these masks to like upgrade your guy. And it was just, yeah, I don't know, not anything I really wanted to spend my precious gaming time playing.
Yeah, so they can't all be winners. Yeah, unfortunately, like you take a shot on a game and sometimes it just doesn't click. That happened to me last year with the game. I think it was Faye. Which sounds very similar to your experience.
Yeah, I remember you talking about Faye.
Yeah, so I mean, and I picked it up because I thought it sounded cool. I thought I'd read, I think, a couple good things about it, but I played it and ultimately, yeah, that left me wanting. So yeah, sometimes you try to strike gold, and sometimes you miss.
Yeah, so let's just say that Forever Forest is better off never coming out of the forest.
Damn, just always wandering that forest forever and ever. That's
forever.
hard. That's harsh.
Stay in there. You live there now.
Please, I have to eat. No, you're done. You had your chance.
Yeah, so that's Forever Forest. But the other game I picked up on the Switch eShop. So here, I knew already that this game was great. This game, well, games actually, came out on the 3DS years ago, and I always wanted to play them, but I just never got around to picking them up. And they were recently released on the Switch in a bundle package of the first and second game together, and those are the Gunman Clive games.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah. if you're unfamiliar with Gunman Clive, it is a 2D platformer, um, much in the style of Mega Man. Like there are a lot of similarities in Mega Man in this game. A lot with the level design and the enemies and the boss fights that you fight in it. Um, they're basically two small indie games. Like I beat the first one in like 40 minutes, and I beat the second one in like maybe over an hour. They're very short, but they're just like excellent platforming games. Like the level design and the platforming challenges that they have that you go through to these levels are like super addicting. It's a lot of fun. The boss fights are really clever, especially the final boss and the end of the second Gunman Clive. They just a ton of fun to play. You get these upgrades to your gun, that there's like a homing missile or like a giant missile that shoots out, or a scatter shot that helps your progression throughout the level. If you take a hit, you lose that gun basically, and you go back to the starting gun that you have. It's a Western themed platformer, which is awesome because I love platformers. I love Western stuff. You're playing as this cowboy. You have to try and rescue this damsel in distress. You're going through these awesome levels with like these other cowboys that are like trying to kill you, and they're just popping out of the ground, or like you're on trains and stuff. And the level design is really great. You'll be going through like a western town, or the next level you're on a moving train, or the next level you're like strapped to a rocket and you're like flying through the air, and it's a 2D like shooting level. It's got a really great sense of humor.
Traditional
and,
Western.
Yeah, like it starts off like a traditional Western, but things start to get a little weird. Especially in Gunman Clive 2, like some of the levels get so bizarre. Like at one point you're in like a Asian town and you're riding on the back of a panda bear, firing your gun, being chased by a giant buzzsaw, and climbing these stalks of bamboo, dodging giant sumo wrestlers that are trying to kick you into the buzzsaw. I'm not even kidding.
What?
There's another level where you're in like this dinosaur world,
Mm-hmm.
and you're riding on the back of a pterodactyl, like flying through the air, and there are other like evil cowboys on the backs of velociraptors that are chasing you.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
And in Gunman Clive 2, instead of, well, coupled with the traditional 2D platforming, there's also some like third person racing or shooting style levels. Like, you're on the back of the pterodactyl, like you're actually like seeing behind the pterodactyl. Like it's almost like a Star Fox for Super Nintendo.
Oh,
You're
okay.
flying through the
I
level and
gotcha.
shooting. There's an awesome level when you're on the back of a horse and you're just kind of running through this level. You're jumping over these logs that are in the way, and there are like enemies like that are in front of you on horses, and you can either shoot at them head on in front of you, or you can wait until they come to the side of you and then like manually shoot them, to the left or right, and, like knock them off their horse. It's super clever. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging. It's the good type of challenge where like, okay, I know what I did here wrong. Let me try again. I'll get it next time. Some of the bosses were tough. They took me like maybe 10 or 15 times to actually kill them, but I was able to and like get to the end. And yeah, it's just, I can't recommend these games enough. And the best part is the collection is only $4, like for both games, and it looks great on the Switch.
That's such a deal.
Yeah, it's got a really cool art style too. It's like a minimalistic color palette, and it's like kind of sketched in, like like the sketch lines are like kind of moving as you move around. It's like a animated texture basically on the backgrounds and the characters and stuff. It's a really really cool look. Yeah, it's a simple game. It's a ton of fun. It's very highly rated. If you're a fan of platformers, or Mega Man style games, definitely check out Gunman Clive.
All right, nice.
Yeah, and it's really funny. Some of the enemies in Gunman Clive are just like random animals, like pelicans or cougars or something, and there are these ducks that just kind of they don't even like they attack you if you bump into them, but they're not like going out to attack you. Like all they're doing is just kind of like waddling around, like kind of in the way here and there. And
Those damn ducks, like, move, duck.
when you beat each game, you unlock duck mode, where you play as a duck, and you don't have an attack. All you can do is fly. So you just have to flap your way through a level and get to the end without dying, basically. So like your enemies are still there, they're still shooting at you, they're still trying to kill you, but you can kind of fly like up to like 4 or 5 times before you have to touch the ground again, and you just have to try and make it to the end of the level.
Oh, shit.
And it's hilarious and fun and like creative and challenging, and yeah, it's great. Duck mode is awesome.
All right, duck mode. Every game should have a duck mode.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like they it's the whole game, but they took out the boss fights, so you don't, because as a duck you can't fight anything, so
Naturally.
you just have to try and avoid everything and get to the end. So it's like a new way to play the game, basically, where you have to make all these tough platforming jumps, but you can't take out the people that are shooting at you while you're doing them.
Right.
So it makes it harder.
That's tricky. That's very tricky.
But you can fly a little bit, so it makes like jumps a little bit easier too. So and you're a duck, which is awesome. So it's pretty great.
Yeah. No complaints there. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, on top of that, just more Little Dragons Cafe. I took a break from it mostly last week because I wanted to play something else to talk about on the pod. I think I have 2 more characters in Little Dragons Cafe that I have to get through their story to beat it. So each one takes probably about 2 or 3 hours, I'm guessing. So I still got a little bit to go. The game is definitely, I love it, but it's definitely dragging on. Like I kind of wish I was just done with it right now.
It's dragging on.
How did I not think of
that? Oh man, I shouldn't edit out the pun. We have so few listeners as is.
The good news is that Spoonie, my dragon, he's about to grow into his adult stage, which is when he gets some new abilities. So that'll be cool to check out, and I'll be able to reach some new places that I haven't been to yet. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
And yeah, just more Smash Brothers. Version 2.0 went live yesterday as of when we were recording this, and with that new update, the newest playable character, Piranha Plant, came out. And if you purchased the game before January 31st, you got a free download code for Piranha Plant. So I was able to get my copy of him, and I tried him out a little bit last night. And he's awesome. He's a lot more fun than I thought he was going to be. His moves are really creative. And a lot of his attacks, he actually transforms into different types of piranha plants throughout different Mario games.
Oh, okay.
Like his over and A, he turns into like the black piranha plant with the red spikes. I think they're from the newer Mario games, like the new Super Mario Bros.
Right.
And his B attack is he charges up like a poison cloud, and he turns into the yellow and red piranha plant that like spits out the poison from like the poison levels of the Mario games. His up and B is awesome. He just like kind of spins his leaves around and flies like a helicopter, and it's like one of the best recoveries like in the game. Like he goes so high up, it's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people had their misgivings when they first saw he was the first downloadable character, but it sounds like he's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird choice. I never like got annoyed by it or anything, but I understood the argument of like why just like a random Mario bad guy, why couldn't it be somebody else? But he's fun. Like I did not expect to like him as much as I did, and he might make it into a higher part of my rotation. And I actually did some work this week on. I had 2 GameCube controllers that were kind of falling apart. The joysticks where like literally on one of them, the joystick cover was literally completely gone, and on my Wavebird, it was kind of like falling off a little bit and like barely hanging on.
Yeah.
So
You've had those things for
I
a long time.
oh yeah, they're my two favorite GameCube controllers, and you could definitely see how much went into them. Like a lot of melee obviously destroyed those controllers. Did a number on them.
So much.
Yeah. So I just bought a replacement joysticks and C sticks on Amazon, and then just I took the controllers apart, cleaned them up, swapped out the joysticks, put them back together, and it was like just a really cool project to do. I was looking up some ways to actually like paint the controllers, maybe, give it a cool design. Something I might do later, but just for the time being, I just wanted to like, replace the buttons and see how they work. And they work pretty great. It was pretty awesome. It was cool to be able to restore these. The Wavebird is like one of my favorite controllers of all time. So to be able to bring that back, into like really great working condition, is just really cool. And to be able to play a new Smash with these, I mean, you can't go wrong there. It's pretty awesome.
Yep. I mean, it's the best control scheme for Smash, at least if you believe the pros.
It's still the most comfortable for me, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot.
It certainly was. But you know what? This new 2-week format, you better get used to it, folks, because we're going to be bringing you a lot of content.
Yep. I got to step up my game.
We're gonna have plenty to talk about. So please look forward to it.
Yeah. Don't touch that dial.
That being said, getting back to the Creepcast.
That's what we do on the side. It's Patreon subscribers only. You have to pay extra for the Creepcast. Oh, what a terrible deal.
Move.
What a terrible deal.
All right.
But moving on.
Yes. With that, I believe it's time for the Indie Arcade.
Indie Arcade.
If you remember last 2 weeks ago, well, all right, we'll just say last episode.
There you go. Yeah, if you remember last episode. Last time.
Correct.
If you remember from last time.
Last time on PAR Podcast, I assigned Chris the game Niche, a genetics survival game to play. It looked super creative and interesting, and I purposely did not look up anything more because I really want to know what you thought of it, Chris, and the time to hear that is now. So go.
Thank you, Justin. Time to go is now. All right, so Niche. It is a unique game. Like we talked about last time, it definitely reminds me a lot of the real-time strategy format of kind of that grid-shaped structure like you see from games like Age of Empires or something like that, where the map is all like hexagons that are all interconnected in unique ways. The game starts off with a very hefty tutorial that kind of takes you like step by step through every single thing you're going to need to know to start off the game. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, before it even gets to the gameplay, it starts off with kind of like it's I can't really say a cinematic because it's kind of like a series of different pictures that like there's like quick cuts between them. Like nothing is truly animated, but it's got like sound effects, there's like a soundtrack to it. And it starts off, there's these weird cat fox, like there's saber-toothed cat fox things, and there's like a herd of them, and they're like just wandering around the forest, and they're like eating food off of bushes and things like that. And there's this little baby one. And it's like, oh, it's hanging out with its parents and all that. And suddenly, there's an eagle in the sky. And this eagle spots the little baby saber-toothed cat fox. And it swoops down. And the baby looks up. And then, it's gone. It's just nothing there. And I'm just like, watching this. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, because, like, when the game starts off, it's just like, it's like this nice family of, like, animals. And they're just hanging out, doing their thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. Oh, it's a little baby with its family of saber-toothed cat foxes. So, like, this is really nice. And then the eagle shows up, and the eagle's like, and it, like, swoops down. I'm like, oh shit, no! And then it scoops the baby up, and I'm like, oh crap, oh shit. But then, like, the screen cuts to black, and then it does that thing where, like, from a first-person perspective, you kind of see, like, these eyes, like, blink open. So you see, like, from the cat fox's perspective, and it's like way high up in the sky, and like the eagle is like carrying it, or it's like flying it back to its nest. So the baby saber-toothed cat fox is like, and it swipes at the eagle, and it's like, and it drops the baby off on an island, on just some random island. So the whole point of the game now at this point is you have to get from this island to your original island, and in the meantime, days and months and years are going to progress. So as this happens, you have to progress and evolve your species over time. You have to survive these islands. So when you first start out, you're just this little baby dropped off onto the middle of this random island. And the game, like, does a lot. It's like, oh man, you just got dropped onto a random island, but don't worry, we'll help you out. And it's like, oh, you do this and you do that, and you have certain moves. You click on the animal, and you can move a certain amount, and that counts as like one of your moves. As the animal grows up, you've got like when you're a baby, you've got like this one jewel that's on their chest. It's like a green jewel, and it's glowing, and it glows bright. That's how many moves you get. So when you're a baby, you can use your green jewel move to move a certain number of spots. If there's like really tall grass, or if there's like a lot of what's it called? There's a lot of crap in the way. You
Obstacles?
can't. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, if there's a lot of like brush, that's the word.
Okay.
There's brush in the way, then you can't go through that. So that limits your movement. And at that point, you're done. So all you can do at that point is end the day. So the day ends, the new one begins, you get your move back, and as that happens, a couple things happen. One, your animal ages just a little bit, and there's a little age meter on the side that shows you how old your animal is.
Okay.
And there's like 3 different sections. There's the baby section, there's like a young adult, like teenage section, and then there's the adult section, which the first 2 are like really short, but then the third one is very long. So you start out as the baby, and then as the days progress, that fills up, and when that fills up, then you become a teenage version. And at that point, you get angsty teen, like sitting in your room, blasting, death metal, it told you
Marlboro menthols and porn mags under your bed.
Yep. Told you how many times to not smoke that shit. You're killing yourself. And all he does is just flip me off. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, why is it so hard, Justin? Why is it so hard? But anyway. So getting back to the game. Once you become a teenager, you get a second jewel on your chest. So now you can do 2 moves during the day. So you can move and or you can attack, like if there's prey that's near you, you can attack them and you can harvest their meat. Now, attacking and harvesting the meat, that's not two separate moves. So if you kill something and then you can get the meat, you can harvest that. Your animal's an omnivore, so it could either eat meat or there are berries from different bushes that you could harvest. So you could either destroy a bush and collect all those berries or get the meat. And that's important too, because as you age, as you go through each day, not only do you get slightly older, but you also whittle down some of the food that you have. So you have a set amount of food that you have to find during the course of you traversing the islands. And if the food meter goes down to 0 and you go a couple days, then eventually you're going to starve to death. So it's very, very important that you find enough food to keep yourself going. Also, as you progress through the islands, you're going to find other animals that you can recruit. You can recruit these animals to your tribe. And to do that, that's where food is also important. You have to make them an offering. I think you have to give them like 10 pieces of food, and they will agree to be a member of your tribe. So now they will kind of follow you. They will be part of your pack as you go from island to island. Hopefully, they will follow you. And I say hopefully, that's called foreshadowing. I'm gonna get back to that.
Okay.
Now, these animals that you recruit, if they are the opposite sex, then you have the option of mating with these animals, which also is very important because, again, you're trying to evolve your species. You're trying to progress from island to island. So it's important that you keep your line going. Now, the
to
animal...
bone or not to bone?
That is the question. But no, the answer is bone. Like
100% bone.
100% bone. As much as you can, as often as you can.
This game is just like real life.
So a lot of the animals that you find,
says the two nerds hosting a video game podcast.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, okay. I'm just crazy boning up a storm.
Boning all the time.
Yeah.
Oh God,
yeah.
Is that a girl?
Is that a girl?
Yep.
So
anyway.
yeah. So enough about high school. So you find this animal species, and they're kind of the same species, but because you were just dropped on a random island, they're not exactly the same species as you. There's like little differences. Like my saber-toothed cat fox kind of had like a bushy chest, really long teeth, antlers that grew out. It's a weird animal, and and it sees this female, and she's like shorter. She's got red fur, smaller ears. She has antlers, but they're not like big antlers. They're kind of like nubs, pretty much. She also has like saber-toothed fangs. Her tail isn't like a fox tail. It's kind of like a long, like almost cat tail. And you go up to this the female, and the mating procedure goes as thus: you offer her food to make her join your tribe, and then one of your moves is mate. So
pretty straightforward.
So you click on the animal that you want to mate with, and you say mate, and then hearts just erupt from both of you where you're sitting. Now, each animal, like, as you control them, they're kind of just like sitting down on all fours, like they're sitting on their haunches, just kind of looking at you. And it's actually kind of fun because as you move the mouse around to wherever it is you want to move the mouse to, the animal that you selected, the one that's going to move, is just kind of looking around at the mouse as you're moving it. So it's like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And
This game sounds really cool.
it was pretty cool. So I like, ultimately I had a lot of fun with it. It was hard though. This was very hard because I progressed my lineage to a few generations, but man, the game gets really, really hard. And I gotta say too, it's like that first time where eventually, like, I had my progeny advance to the point where, like, they were exploring the island and they were getting to this one area. There's like a travel rock on the other end of the island that you have to get to that's surrounded by flowers, and you have to get your animals that you want to progress with you to the next island. One of them goes to the rock, and then the other animals go in the flowers, and then the animal that's closest to the rock can say, okay, let's travel. And you get a warning saying, any animals that in your clan who are not in the flowers are going to be left behind, and you are never going to see them again. You know,
Damn.
do you wish to continue? And it's like, everyone's here. Okay, good. Let's go. So then you go and you move on to the next island, which is a much bigger island than what you've dealt with before. So again, your moveset is very limited, and these islands are coated in brush. So your movement is very, very limited, as is. So you can only move a certain amount. You can only hunt a certain amount, because once you reach the adult stage, that's when you get a third move. You get a third green jewel on your chest, and then you get 3 moves total. So you can move 3 times, move twice, and then hunt. Whatever it is you want to do. You can also clear brush away to improve your movement. But each time you do that, you use up a day and you use up more food. And the food that you collect is shared among your clan. So whereas before, let's say you had 10 pieces of food and you need like 1 piece or even 2 pieces per day to survive, and then you have another clanmate, well then a day passes, and instead of having 10 and it going down to 8, you're at 10, now you're down to 6. And then another day goes down, and now you're down to 2. And,
man.
And then it's like, oh man, like, I gotta get food now. It's hard because you have to like plan ahead and be like, okay, there's a crab over there, or there's like a rabbit over there that I can hunt. So you make your way slowly there, because you see your food stores are diminishing. They're diminishing, and you have to replenish them. So there's a lot of strategy elements there, and thinking, okay, what is most important to me? Do I get to the food? Do I save these different animals? What is it that I need to do? And there were a couple of times I got to some islands and I had to make some difficult choices. Like
you ate your own friends, didn't you?
I did not. I never ever cannibalized any one of my clanmates, although I may have abandoned a baby sister or two to death.
Hey man, look, it's nature, all right? Things get ugly. You gotta do what you can to survive.
I know, but I still
You
felt
gotta
really
leave the weak. I mean, animals do it, Somebody's hurt in the pack, slowing everybody else down.
She was like 3 days old.
Hey, look, that's her problem, all right? You gotta let her go.
Oh man, I still felt like a monster. I was like, oh, because all of my clanmates were starving. I was like, we got to get to the new island, because like I think you get like a slight replenishment of food as you go from one island to the next, and we were all gathered, but I foolishly thought that the little one could maybe she could find food going the other direction. She didn't. and there was and there wasn't enough time, there wasn't enough days to slowly navigate her way back to us, to the travel point, and I was like, I'm sorry, we have to go. We
Look,
have to go.
nature is a cruel mistress. Only the strong survive.
Yep.
Things happen. You gotta look out for number one.
Gotta look out for number one. So eventually, like, I made my way, and I made my way to this one island. I mean, they start out like, here's a tiny island, then here's a slightly bigger island, then one that's slightly bigger than that, and then here's one that's the size of fucking Australia. Like, in real life, the size of Australia. And it's like, okay, get to the other side. And I'm like, well, this is it. I mean, it was me. It was two females in my clan that were left. And they had, like, no food left among either one of them. And I was like, well, this is where I die. And I did my best. I tried to find food. I attacked a thing that, like, attacked me back, and it caused me to start bleeding. And I was like, oh no. Oh. I needed to find food to, like, stanch the bleeding somehow. But there was nothing. So that one bled out after a couple days.
Oh, it's horrible.
And I'm like, oh man. So then I was like, oh, the other one found a berry bush. I was like, oh yes, this is welcome. I ate the berries. They were poisoned.
Oh no.
They were poisoned berries. And I was like, well, looks like that's the end for me. And sure enough, when that one died, I get, like, this thing that popped up. It was like, you have gone extinct. And I'm like, well, that's it. I'm like, well, that's a kick in the nuts.
Your species no longer exists. Thanks for playing.
Would you like to play again? And I mean, honestly, like, it's not bad. It was a fun little diversion.
Yeah, totally. It sounds like the kind of game that you have to experience, like, things going wrong, so when you play it again, you know what to look out for, and you'll get a little farther, that kind of system.
What's funny, too, is after I played the game, I was kind of looking it up, because I was like, I had never really heard too much about this game. Justin, there is a niche wiki. There is actually, like, ironically enough, a niche fan base of people who love the game niche enough where they have a wiki where they share tips and, like, oh, this animal does this animal does that, you want to do this, that, like, there's strategies for getting through the different islands. And I was like, oh shit, I'm like, would you look at this? So
oh, there you go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also, just briefly, like, I didn't really explore this option too much, but as you evolve your animals and as you mate them, the offspring, you have the option of choosing 2 genetic mutations. And the genetic mutations can be, like, as you play through the game, you can slowly unlock more mutations. But what they are is, they're just all sorts of different things. You could have, like, red fur, green fur, short antlers, long antlers, blue eyes, green eyes, eyes that are slits, rounded eyes, anything you can think of. And you choose 2 of them. And what happens is when that offspring eventually grows up and mates with another animal, their offspring has a good chance of having one of those genetic mutations. So you could strategically be like, hey, like, eventually I want my animals to be able to do this. So you kind of plan ahead and you say, okay, I'm going to have them have strong forearms. So it'll make digging a lot easier. Because you can dig for different things. You can dig burrows. You can dig for food that might be underneath. It'll make that a lot easier in the future. So you can kind of, like, that's how you can kind of strategically plan out, okay, what animal do I eventually want to become as I evolve over time?
That sounds really creative, and I'm really surprised that I haven't heard too much about this game. I mean, I randomly found it just perusing Steam looking for your indie arcade game, And really, outside of that, I haven't heard much people talking about it. I haven't seen anything online really about it. It's got a relatively quiet, release, and I don't know. I find it interesting because it sounds like it's a fun strategy game.
Yeah, it was really fun. You said it, like, if you're a fan of strategy games, if you want to kind of experience just a fun, like, sort of low stress, like there's a bit of stress involved in getting the animals to survive, but it's very creative, it's unique. I had a lot of fun with it. I would 100% recommend Niche to anyone who is interested in trying the game out.
All right, awesome. Well, it looks like you're starting off 2019 with a pretty good record for indie arcade games.
Yeah, so far. I mean, we'll see how much longer that lasts. All right, so Justin, the time has come for me to assign you your first indie arcade title of 2019.
Yeah, and I'm feeling pretty... I could be wrong, but I'm feeling pretty good about this one.
I'm really glad to hear that, because at the end of last year, what I had done, Justin, is there were a lot of kind of like end-of-year recap videos, especially on YouTube. The YouTube channel Extra Credits has like a really great thing that they do each year where they're like, oh, here are some games that you might have missed from last year. Now, these are games that aren't necessarily good. I mean, a lot of them are good, but some of them are like, yeah, they're interesting, or there's something that's worth looking at, because the channel is mostly geared towards, I guess, game developers and giving advice towards like, oh, your games should be like this or that, here's ways to improve in different areas like this. So it's more of like an instructional thing for game developers to like, hey, play this game and you'll gain some sort of insight into the game development process. So
Right.
They listed out a lot of those games, and I wrote down a few of these games because I'm like, yeah, they're really interesting and they could be really good, and some of them I had heard of and they were pretty critically acclaimed. Justin, I am not giving you any one of those games today.
You really set all that up.
Not a single one. The game I'm giving you today is... I can't wait for you to play this game, mostly because I know for a fact this game is the type of game that you would absolutely 100% detest hating.
How could you see this already?
So, I'm thrilled and honored, Justin, to give you your first indie arcade for 2019. It is on iOS and the Google Play Store. It is a mobile game. Let me just bring it up real quick. Justin? Oh, man, I've been literally looking forward to this for like a week and a half.
Son of a bitch.
Your indie arcade title is My Horse Prince.
What?
My Horse Prince. Here's the description on the Google Play Store. Will you be my owner? Will you be my owner? There stands a horse with a handsome human face. Before you know it, you agree to start training him. Is this a dream or a nightmare? Life on this strange ranch awaits. Play the game that revolutionizes the bond between a girl and her horse.
Revolutionizes?
Listen, man, I'm not the one who's making the claim here.
Oh, man. You are lucky I just recently got a new phone that can handle more shit on it. There it is. My Horse Prince.
My Horse Prince. I love the icon for it. It's literally, it is the horse with a human face.
Oh, God. It is. It's horrifying.
Yep. It's, yeah.
Oh.
So, Justin, your mission is to find this horse, is to romance this horse. Please look at some of the screenshots of this game. It just looks...
Experience the weird wonder of a human-faced horse.
So... That one, yeah, I see that screenshot where he's just like, the girl is just like, oh, and he's got it like his hoof up against the wall, like, will you be my owner?
He's literally shattering the wall. Oh my god. I don't even know how this game works.
Justin, there's only one way to find out. Now, it's a free-to-play game, so I don't expect you to spend anything on any in-app purchases. That's completely your prerogative.
I cannot believe I'm about to hit the install button on my horse prince.
Well, while you're waiting for that to install, what do you say we take a quick break to catch our breath?
Let's do it. Welcome back to Press A Repeatedly. Justin Thomasville here with Chris Cole, and we are going to begin our first true or false segment of the year 2019. Yes, thank you for the true or false theme. So if you're new to true or false and aren't quite sure how it works, basically, we'll be taking turns saying video game statements that we think will happen in the future, and the other person who was being asked the question will have to decide whether the statement is true or false and explain their reasoning why they think so.
Yep, it's fairly cut and dry, and it's also interesting because the statements that we put forth always have sort of a controversial or even like a risky bent towards them. So it's always led to very interesting discussions in past episodes when we've done this. So they've always been really fun, open up things for debate. I've always had a good time recording them and even listening back on them. They've always been a lot of fun. So I'm hoping to bring a little bit of that magic to you guys once again.
Yeah, it's a great segment. Like I mentioned it before, I totally stole it from the show NFL Live on ESPN. They do the same thing, just about general NFL questions. And it always makes for a good conversation and good debate points. So I just kind of took that and retrofitted it to the video game idea, and it works out pretty great.
Yep. So what do you say we get right into it, get started, kick things off, and
there you go.
Yeah, see, and then Justin, we'll start things off with you. What is your first statement that you would like to make?
All right, this one is very topical. Chris, with the recent release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that release will be the final Super Smash Bros. To be released. True or false?
I'm going to say false, just because this game right now is selling like crazy. I think I saw a stat just yesterday, or was it even earlier today, that it's been I think within a month or so of how long has the game been out on the market?
December 6th it came out.
December 6th. So it's been out almost 2 months, and it's sold something like 12 million units in that time period. It has rapidly become one of the best-selling games on the Switch since its release. Even crazier, I think I saw a stat a couple weeks ago where if you were just looking at the game, now the game, like you just mentioned, was released December 6th. If you look at the top-selling games all year of games that came out in 2018, Smash Brothers Ultimate, I think, was the 4th or 5th best-selling game of 2018. And it came out in, December 6th. Like, it didn't even have all of December to sell through. That's how crazy this game is selling right now. I mean, it's a cash cow. It's become one of the strongest franchises that Nintendo has going for them. Now, so you look at those sales figures and all that money rolling in, and I find it very difficult to believe that they're just going to stop with Smash Brothers Ultimate. Because you can look at newer games being released in the future, who they could incorporate those characters into future Smash releases. They could expand the stages, all sorts of different ways that they could eventually take the franchise. Now, do I believe that Sakurai is going to be the one heading up development of Ultimate in the future? I don't necessarily think so, because he has, he's been the lead developer on Smash Brothers since its inception back in the Nintendo 64 days, and he's crammed anything and everything he can into this franchise, and it's noticeably left him burnt out on multiple occasions. I don't necessarily think he's going to dive back into the franchise anytime soon. I don't think he's going to want to invest that kind of stress or energy yet again into this franchise that seemingly has people craving more and more and more from him. So I don't know if we would get the game from him, which in essence, I don't think we would get the same type of Smash Brothers experience that we're used to. But as for it being the last Smash Brothers, no, I'm going to say false.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that statement. But it's almost like kind of tough for me to 100% go one way or the other, because when I was thinking of that question, I was thinking that Smash Bros. Ultimate has the potential to be that long form market game that multiplayer games are starting to become now. Like something like how Destiny and other multiplayer games are trying to be this game as a service kind of thing, with content updates coming out here and there, and you're paying for DLC and stuff. And I could totally see that this version of Super Smash Brothers could potentially last for years with that kind of content coming out, like new stages, new characters, new modes, basic gameplay and performance enhancements, online capabilities getting better and stronger and more creative. Just every 3 or 4 months, or a pretty decent sized update comes out. The game plays great. The Switch is really early in its life cycle, so I could potentially see that Smash Bros. Ultimate could just kind of be that game as a service that keeps running for a long time, and actually make a pretty decent amount of money, with just additional bonuses and DLC stuff, of people just buying more characters, costumes, items, whatever becomes available, music tracks, because of such a love for the franchise. This could be a constant stream of revenue for Nintendo, for a long time, and a lot of that stuff might not be too demanding of developers to put together. Now I know making a character, I'm sure, is the most work to be done, but maybe just creating stages and bringing stuff back that was in previous versions of Smash and not in this one, might be easier to do. And I think it could work that way because of how popular that game is. I mean, like you said it yourself, like the 12 million copies sold in less than 2 months. That's insane. I think Breath of the Wild just recently hit 12 million, and that came out when the Switch launched, which was back in March of 2017. So
yeah, almost
numbers are
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. The numbers are so impressive. But yeah, your argument there that of just how fast the game's been selling and how much money Nintendo is making from it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say that it is going to be the last Smash game to come out. So, I guess we'll see for the future.
Yeah, we'll see. It's that's an interesting point that it could be sort of a games as service type thing that Nintendo just updates in the future. I'm pretty sure I think they only have like a set amount of characters that they're going to be expanding going forward for the game. I know they've got Piranha Plant coming out. The first downloadable character is actually Joker from Persona 5. So, that's interesting. That's a whole genre that I don't think has even been on a Nintendo platform, the Persona series. Yeah, Elena and Lois would be better at correcting me on that if...
They've been on 3DS, but not of a main console.
Right, so that's interesting, and who knows who's going to be coming down the line at that point, but we will see. I don't see the series going away. I don't see this being the last one, though. Not by a long shot.
All right. Yep. Great way to start.
Great way to start. That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm pretty great.
Yes, you are. Yeah, don't hurt yourself patting yourself on the back there.
I'll have my man horse pat me on the back.
Your horse prince.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, he's royalty. Get it right. All right. So, now it's my turn. My statement.
Yes.
With the closing of the Wii shop this week, piracy is the only way we'll ever truly get to play older games.
I'm going to say false because I think that within the next few years, there's going to be some sort of Netflix-style service to play old games. I was talking about it before on the pod, I think. But I just really think there's a lot of potential there. Retro gaming is at its absolute peak. I think not just Nintendo, but all video game manufacturers would be foolish to try and just make old games completely inaccessible. I think there's a lot of money to be made of just being able to present these old games in some sort of fashion for easeability to download or even stream. Like I know Xbox has a game streaming service, and I think PlayStation does as well with PS Now. These older games are less technically demanding. It would be a lot easier to set that up and have those games run smoother. In fact, the Nintendo Switch Online, their NES games work the same way. You don't download them; you're streaming those games, and I just think it would be a waste to not take advantage of these libraries. I think to let them fall completely to the wayside not only is a missed opportunity, but it's almost insulting, I guess, to the video game industry to have these games just kind of disappear. It's detrimental. I think a lot of not only developers but game fans in general would hate to see that happen. And I believe there will be some sort of capability in the future. We have the technology to do so. To be able to peruse these old catalogs and play whatever game you want at your leisure. There will be, you'll have to pay for it. It's going to be some sort of financial service to make that happen, but I think it will be worth it, and I think it will be an option that will be available for those who want it.
So that sort of thing is, that's kind of more speculative, though, that you think that this is something that's going to happen within the next few years.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Like, for right now, I guess in terms of the only real sure way, I kind of waffle between the statement. Like, on the one hand, I think it's false because I agree with you. I think a lot of these companies, especially Nintendo, would be crazy to let a lot of their older classical library just kind of fall to the wayside and just not really do anything to preserve these games or set up a way for people in the future to play them more easily. On the other hand, I'm kind of leaning towards true because, with things that are like, yeah, Nintendo has, those NES games that are available on the Switch Online service, but you're streaming those games. You don't actually own those games. They could take those games away from you at any second. Whereas with old services, like with the the Wii or the 3DS, you bought those games and you download them to your system, and you have them. They're yours. Now, did the digital copies of them, or if you get lucky, you have physical copies of the games. But other than that, you don't really have a whole lot of options anymore. And now with the closing of the Wii Shop, there are a lot of games that you could legit buy and play through that service. One that kind of jumps to my head is ActRaiser. I didn't buy ActRaiser before the Wii Shop closed. I didn't have enough Wii points. I didn't get the chance to actually play it or download it. And now it's, that option is just lost to me forever until someone somewhere decides to re-release ActRaiser on some other legitimate platform somewhere. Really, the only option for me to play the game is through emulation, finding a ROM hack of the game somewhere online. And, that sucks, I want to be able to legitimately play these games. I don't want to have to resort to pirating these games to to get the experience, to see like, oh, what is this game everyone's talking about. It just sucks, and I hope that you're right in that there's a service coming down the line at some point where people can play these games. I know I've talked. I think I've talked before about the video game museum. And there's this guy, Frank Cifaldi. This guy has an account on Twitter where he runs a museum and a video game preservation service where he preserves a lot of these older games. And, that sort of thing, it's it's important to learning the history of video games and further developing the video game industry as a whole. And, we could have a whole discussion about this going forward, but ultimately, I think, mostly I just wanted to just talk about the Wii Shop and it closing down. And, man, as I hooked my Wii U back up the other day because I knew the service was closing down in a few days. So there were games that years ago I had bought and then deleted to kind of make room. Well, this time I went in and I re-downloaded every single one of those games just to make sure that I had them before the service closed for good. And man, I hooked it up and I went into the Wii Shop, and that iconic music kicked in, and it just took me way back. I was like, oh man, there are a lot of good memories in this shop, a lot of great games. I just wish it didn't have to go away.
Yeah, I remember a little while ago last year, I made sure to stay on the pod about the deadline of adding Wii points to your Wii shop, and I went on there and I bought Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana and I don't remember what else, but a couple of games. Just so I could get them, like you said, before the you can't add points anymore, and then the shop closes for good. And it's gonna be tricky. I really do hope that there is some system in place to play these games again. But on the other hand, most game companies are kind of looking towards the future, not so much of the past. They got a lot going on right now, just trying to stay relevant and make the most profit that they can. So I understand that focus on today, but I think there is a lot of opportunity for retro games, especially in today's market with how big nostalgia is, in terms of everything from all forms of media.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so that's enough on that for right now. Let's move on to Justin, your second statement.
All right, this next statement. Okay. True or false? Sony has pulled out of E3 this year because they want to have their own event where they unveil the PS5.
True. I'm gonna say true. Because last year, I mean, we were there. We watched Sony's presentation last year, and I remember it was weird. We were all gathered around. We were at Oaf House watching it, and we were all just like, "What the hell is going on here?" As it was off the wall, there were all these different rooms that everyone had to transfer to. They had that that weird what is it? It was like that weird setup where they had the four guys talking about, oh, what did we just see? Well, I mean, we saw this and that, and blah blah blah. And it's like, what is this? This is your presentation? This is your setup? And they only talked about the main four games. So I mean, I guess maybe Sony was thinking they can't really talk about those same games over again. And they're, that show was really poorly received last time. And I mean, there's been rumors about the PS5 soon to be revealed. I think for the past year and a half at least, saying oh, it's right around the corner. So, I mean, this E3 coming up is right around that time where you would want to have a major announcement like that. And I think you're right with that statement. PlayStation probably doesn't want to have to share the stage or share the limelight with their system, with a new system being unveiled. I mean, the unveiling of a new system, the start of a new console generation is always a major deal. So they don't want any other games kind of stealing the spotlight or having to deal with Microsoft or Nintendo possibly stealing their thunder. So I think they want to have their own separate thing away from everyone else where they can be here is, here's the PS5 and it's, it's great. And everyone's like, wow, so it is. And that's, that's going to be their show. Obviously better written than that. I would hope they have a better presentation than that. But yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that they want to stay out of E3 to unveil the PS5. I'm gonna go true.
Yeah, I'm gonna say true too, because it just seems like I found it so shocking that they were pulling out of E3, even though E3 has kind of been on a downward slope for a few years. But whether it's the PS5 or maybe some sort of portable version of the PS4 to compete with the Switch, I think there's going to be some big hardware announcement from Sony in this upcoming at whatever E3 event they wind up having. I think they have to do something to rival the popularity of the Switch. The Switch is a new hot thing. It's selling a lot. The PS4 and the Xbox One have been around since 2014, and the Switch just came out. It's not even 2 years old yet, and I think that the success of the Switch, I think, kind of put like a panic button mode in for Sony, maybe to like start. Okay, maybe we can't ride the PS4 for as long as we thought we could. We don't have that many big games coming out. We're losing a lot of excitement. Indie developers are like just jumping over to the Switch. I think Sony feels like they might need to make a big splash this year, and even if they're not fully ready to announce it, they might still like kind of tease it, or just kind of put up a schematic of what they think it might look like or something like vague like that. But
Right.
yeah, I am expecting something large from Sony, large enough to verify or validate their decision to depart from E3 and do their own thing. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the PS5 actually is, because I think in terms of like graphical prowess, how games actually look, I think we've hit kind of a peak in terms of how the games actually look. I think if they're going to add any more beef to the system and what it can do under the hood, it should be a focus, I think, in like the actual world designs and like level designs and expanding what these beautiful games can actually do. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm, as always excited for E3 and or the PlayStation event.
Yep. Alrighty. Sounds good.
All right. So my next statement, Justin, Steam is doomed thanks to competition from the Epic Games Store.
Excruciatingly false.
Excruciatingly false. Interesting. Why excruciatingly false?
I don't see the Epic Games Store just having enough content to compete with Steam. Steam has something for everybody. Like, if you want your first-person shooters, you want your turn-based or strategy games, you want your Prince horse dating simulators, they're all there.
It's not there. I looked on Steam. My Horse Prince is not on Steam.
Okay, that specific one might not be, but I'm sure there are a large amount of similar, ones on there. I think Steam has been around for so long. I think its main core base is older PC gamers who are looking for a specific experience. Not so much like the Fortnite fans. I think that's kind of Epic fans might be gearing to a younger fan base. I think the Epic Store will succeed and do pretty well. But I just think Steam's been around for so long. It's such a powerhouse. It's like, PC and Steam go together like peanut butter and jelly. I don't really see those two ever really straying or being one without the other. So, I am going to say false. I believe Steam will be around for a long, long time.
I will kind of say false too, just in the sense that I don't think Steam is doomed per se. But I do eventually see and like you said, Steam is kind of like they're the big man on campus. They're longer established. They had the resources. They have all the games for everyone. They're the talk of the town right now. They're the ones who have everything going for them right now, but people have had their complaints about Steam, especially developers have had their complaints about Steam for a long, long time now. And Epic Games, they're promising a much more generous split of the revenue from games that are hosted on the Epic Games Store. Like I forget what the split is, but I think like 80 or 88% of what they sell from the game on the store goes back to the developer, while Epic Games retains the other 12%. Whereas the split for a game on Steam, the same game, is not nearly as generous as it would be for the developer. Now, granted, Epic Games is just starting out, so naturally it's a smaller install base. They don't have nearly as much clout as Steam because they're more firmly established. But Epic Games did pick up a pretty big get this past week because Metro Exodus, which is a lot of people's most anticipated game this year, they announced that they're actually switching over to the Epic Games Store exclusively.
Wow.
So if you had not, they'll still honor any pre-orders that people had put through Steam up to this point. But right now, you cannot go on Steam and buy Metro Exodus for the computer. You have to buy it through the Epic Games Store only. So
That's really interesting.
yes. So and Steam, that was actually what kind of spurred this statement for me, because Steam they put out like a really whiny statement about how like, oh, these developers didn't want to use Steam and we don't think that's fair, to all of our loyal customers and blah blah blah. And it was like, step up your game, make yourselves more attractive to have developers decide to stay on your platform. I mean, a lot of developers, especially indie devs, have been looking for a good alternative to Steam for a long, long time. That's part of why indie games do so well on the Nintendo Switch, because the Switch is, it's kind of become cliche at this point, but it's the perfect console for just so many indie games to be released on it. So I don't know, like, I don't see Steam going away. I think they've got way, way, way too many resources. They've got way too much going on for them in the background. But Epic, they've made a lot of money so far from Fortnite. They've kind of got a lot of money saved up themselves. Not nearly as much as Valve, surely, but they're getting there. And the Epic Games Store might not be a big thing now, but I could see that being a thorn in Steam's side someday.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know that about Metro Exodus switching over there, and I didn't know that about the the incentive that developers will make a lot more, for their games being sold on Epic. So yeah, with those statements, you never know. Maybe Epic isn't like a pushover. Maybe that will stick around, and maybe it will bring some pretty healthy competition to Steam. But I agree. Maybe it's a good thing for Steam too. Maybe Steam will start seeing developers leave more and more, and be like, all right, hey, we're doing something wrong here. We need to get these guys, paid better or treated better or whatever.
Yeah, maybe Valve will decide,
keep them around.
Oh man, we're losing money on Steam. Maybe we should make some video games.
Yeah, or maybe even that.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, we'll see. We will certainly see.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So, what is your third and final statement?
All right, my third and final statement. The next big game console, whatever it is, whoever makes it, will not come with a standard controller. To elaborate a bit more, whatever the next big game consoles will have some sort of like body related controller, like your hands are the controller, or it's a camera IR based kind of thing or something, maybe a mix of virtual reality in there, but basically there would be no standard like handheld controller for the next big console.
So something you think kind of similar to like what the Kinect was?
It could be. It could be like diodes for your fingers or something, or
Ooh.
I don't know. Just something outside the box of a standard controller that you hold in your hand.
Hmm.
A more interactive way to play.
Hmm. I'm gonna say false on that, if only because people in general. I'm not gonna. I was. It's on the tip of my tongue. I was gonna say gamers, but it's not. It's not strictly true. People in general do not like change, and people are used to the standard controller where you've got like the unit and it's got the control sticks on the side and the buttons and the hoozy dadsies and the liberty gibbets, and they want to hold that physical controller in their hands. They're going to want that sense of familiarity, especially if only because, like, let's say we do have a new unique control scheme coming down the line. uh, what if people try out that new control scheme and they're like, I'm not really a fan of this, I don't like this, and they want to retreat back to that safety net of a standard controller until they're ready to move on to the new advanced control scheme. People are creatures of habit. They want to maintain that same sense of, oh, this is the same, this is the same, this is the same. I'm sure you're in IT. You deal with it all the time. I'm sure when there's like an upgrade or something, or there's a change in something, people are like, "Oh, this is different, therefore it's terrible." Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is just the worst." And then
Yeah.
you use it for long enough, and that change becomes the new normal. So if after using it enough times, people kind of get used to it. They get over it. But initially, most people, when there's a new change or there's like a new innovation or an upgrade or something like that, they are dragged kicking and screaming towards this change. So yeah, ultimately, the new consoles that come out, whether it's the PS5 or the Xbox, the Xbox 2 or whatever it is they decide to call that, the Apple, Awesome, or or whatever else, the Nintendo, the Nintendo Switchblade, any one of those, controls, you're gonna see like that sense of familiarity. I mean, heck, even in Nintendo Switch, they've got the two unique handhelds, or they've got the big, the handheld system where you can have the handheld mode. Even they have that little plastic part dongle where you can slip the control sticks into it and simulate a standard control scheme, because they know people want that sense of familiarity. So, yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there will be a new control scheme, but not having the standard controller in with the box, nah, I gotta say false.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer, because I would say false to that too, pretty much for all the same reasons that you said. The only thing I would throw in there additionally would be that of the big name developers that are putting out new consoles, the only one I think that would be kind of crazy enough to take that sort of risk and chance would be Nintendo, and they just recently released the Switch less than 2 years ago, so
Right.
they're not due for another system for at least a long time. They've kind of did it before when the Wii came out. When we first saw the Wiimote as a controller, I think a lot of people were kind of weirded out and just not quite sure how that was going to work. There's this weird cable, and then there's this other controller that has a joystick on it, and you can play them together, and they're tethered, and it's just like this weird, strange format. But like you said, they had a pro controller for, or a classic controller for the Wii. When the Wii U came out, there was a Wii U Pro controller. With the Switch, there is the dock for the Joy-Cons to turn into a standard controller, and there's also a Pro controller. So yeah, I think it is definitely an incredibly risky move to release a console without that standard controller. So yeah, I don't see it happening within the next console, but I could see it in the future. If let's say VR starts to take off a little bit more, becomes more of a trusted and a verified video game source. Microsoft recently released this. This is so cool to me. They released a special controller that people with special needs can use to play video games with, and it is one of the coolest inventions that's like I've ever seen, and it's been winning a bunch of awards. I think it's nominated, or it might have won Times Invention of the Year. It's just this like giant like flat controller with these two pads that it just makes playing games more accessible for everyone. And it's people with only one arm can play games, or just any sort of special needs are able to be included and be able to play games with others. And it's just such an awesome piece of technology, and such a forward way of gaming, and it's just got me like super excited. I think it's such a cool, great invention that they were able to put together, and it actually got me excited for the future and like technology and things that we can do that way. So that kind of inspired that question a little bit too. But I guess we'll see.
We don't ordinarily talk about Microsoft in the highest terms on this show, but that is 100% one of the best things that Microsoft has done in a long time. Like you said it, that controller is absolutely fantastic. It allows more accessibility to gamers who have struggled with using the controller, the standard controller in the past. Have you seen the commercial that Microsoft had put out advertising that controller? It's like really heartwarming, and just that controller, they deserve all the awards that they've earned for that system. And I hope more developers out there, Sony and Nintendo included, take notice, and they do more to increase accessibility for their games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The future is pretty bright when it comes to all the technological advances that we got.
Absolutely. All right. So, comes down to me.
Yes.
This is our last statement. Now, traditionally, for anyone new to True or False, the last statement for True or False that we put out is a little bit more lighthearted than the statements that we put out before. This one is no exception. Justin, I pose this statement to you.
Okay.
Kingdom Hearts 3 was released this week.
Now, we've spent our whole careers on saying that this game would never come out.
It has been our rallying cry. Kingdom Hearts 3 will never be released.
And as much as I would love to say that was false, it is not. It is 100% true. I can't believe it. Kingdom Hearts 3 actually came out. It's in stores. You can go. You can see it on the shelf. You can buy it. You can bring it home and put it in your console and play it. It's an incredible notion.
There are videos. People have put videos of them playing the game online.
It's so funny. I mean, as long as I've been looking at video game stuff online, I've never seen so many pictures of like people actually at the store, like buying the game, and like having a Best Buy representative take a picture of them holding the game, because like it was a legitimate thought that like this is going to be stuck in development hell. It's never going to come out. It's been teased and teased. There's been teasers of when a teaser will drop and all this ridiculous Square shit that they're known for doing. There have been about 42.5 different Kingdom Hearts games that came out in between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Wait,
Prequels, sequels,
hold on,
dequels, and frequels.
dequels and frequels.
Yeah. Just
what does it even mean? A frequel?
everything you could possibly think of that is not Kingdom Hearts 3 was created and announced and released, except for the actual Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yep.
But yeah,
until now.
it's out. It is 100% true.
Yep.
You can buy the game and play it right now.
Yep. And so one of our longest running jokes dies a grisly, gory death. Yep. Rest in peace to a great joke, a worthy joke. But we got to move on. It's done. It's over.
It served us well.
It served us well for a very, very long time. Although we can still make fun of Kingdom Hearts 3. I saw a GIF Jason Schreier posted on Twitter where he was like, this is just absolutely infuriating. Like, I mean, you have a Keyblade and you come across a locked chest. So how do you unlock the chest? Sora goes up, he takes his Keyblade, tosses it up in the air, catches it, and then he just bops the top of the chest with his Keyblade, and it opens up. And he's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, you have a Keyblade with a locked chest, and that's how you open it?
Oh,
and I was like, well, I mean, the Kingdom Hearts franchise has always been known for their logic and adherence to reality.
Yes.
So this is kind of a slap in the face to long-term fans, if you ask me.
Yeah, we joke, of course, but, we are really happy for the fans that they finally got, like, the Golden Goose, the game they've been waiting forever for.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, they really have, like, suffered through waiting for this game for a very, very long time. And it's finally out. People are loving it. They're having fun with it. And yeah, I mean, good for them. Yeah, I'm really happy that everyone is enjoying the game as much as they are.
I saw on Twitter some streamer bought the game, came home, and just streamed 28 hours straight of the game and just played it from beginning until end, and then beat it, and then ended his stream, which is just ridiculous.
That's a lot. Did they take bathroom breaks or food breaks or anything?
I'm sure they probably did. I would hope they did. I hope he's not just wearing a gigantic diaper.
Oh, God.
But
you never know. I mean, they are. Yeah. It is a Kingdom Hearts fan. Oh, God, please. I'm sorry, that was a joke. Don't send in any angry letters, please.
But yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 is out. And then after that, we got another 64 sequels and dequels and frequels coming out probably.
Yeah, until Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yeah. You get to play as Sora when he's inside his mother's womb, swimming, trying to be birthed.
How did this happen? Well, if you played the previous 30 games, you would understand exactly how he got into his own mother's womb. Yeah,
that was in the prequel. Things got freaky.
What, you skipped the prequel?
Oh, man.
Man, you are lost. Like, it's going to take... Here, let me explain to you in an hour-and-a-half long YouTube video.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was pretty great.
Mm-hmm. That was another good session of True or False. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I was actually kind of afraid that we were both going to have like the same kind of idea, and we'd have to like kind of scramble for a backup. But
yeah,
it didn't really seem to happen there. So
yeah, it worked out.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah, the things that you were interested in talking about were different from the things I was interested in talking about. So that worked out. That was very advantageous. Let's never ever do that again.
All right. Well, I don't know about you, but that was a pretty chock-full episode.
Yeah, I think we can call that an episode.
I agree. That is all for this week. Remember, Press Day repeatedly posts new episodes on Tuesdays on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show, or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who have rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you.
You can follow us on our Facebook page or on Twitter and Instagram. We are at PAR_podcast. I'm at cgold113, and Justin is at oaf7724. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's parpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check us out on our website on pressarepeatedly.com. And that's all for this week. Chris and Justin signing off. And remember, to flap your way around dangerous enemies and reach the end of a perilous level, press A repeatedly.